to Mr. Nice's math class. Today we are going to look at simplifying and proving identities using the trig identities. Now this one of my favorite topics here. I mean, you take something that looks so complicated and make it into a nice, easy problem. So we're going to jump right into it here. These are just practice problems using the identities in our last video here. So the first thing that we are going to simplify is sine times cosine over 1 minus cosine squared of x. So the idea here is substitution. Remember, we know that sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1. And we can manipulate that to say that sine squared is equal to 1 minus cosine squared. So I'm going to simply take sine squared and put it in place of 1 minus cosine squared. So I get sine of x times cosine of x over sine squared of x. Okay, so that was a simple substitution there. And then I'm going to take one of these signs and that sign and cross them out. And I have cosine divided by sine. So cosine of x divided by sine of x. And then we all know that's the same as cotangent of x. So I took this ugly little guy up top here, sine cosine 1 minus cosine squared, and turned it into a simple little cotangent. All right, let's take a look at a couple other ones here. That was example numero uno. Example number 1. Why don't we look at this one here? Let's take example 2. This guy looks like a challenging little problem. 1 minus cosine of b times cosecant of b plus cotangent of b. And my b's are not turning out. There we go. Okay, those are b's and not 13s. So, okay, no squareds here, so I can't use any Pythagorean identities. Remember, the Pythagorean identities all deal with squareds. No squareds here. So, gee, what can I do? Well, this says to multiply. Maybe I'll multiply. So I'll send my 1 through, and I get cosecant of b plus cotangent of b. Now I'll send my cosine through, and I get minus cosine of b times cosecant of b minus cosine of b times cotangent of b. Well, that doesn't look any nicer. That looks worse. Okay, well, you know what? I don't like cosecants and secants and cotangents that much, so I'm going to change them into, let's call this 1 over sine. Let's call this cosine over sine minus cosine. All right, that's already in good form. Cosecant is 1 over sine minus cosine times cosine over sine. So we're just rewriting the trig functions into something that may be a little more familiar. Well, right off the bat, look at what we have right here. I have cosine of b over sine of b minus cosine of b over sine of b. Bye-bye. And I'm left with 1 minus cosine squared. And I'm able to do that because they have a common denominator of sine. Well, 1 minus cosine squared, wasn't that our last problem? Boom, that's sine squared. So now I can say 1 minus cosine squared is sine squared. And I'm dividing that by sine, remember? So I end up with just sine of b. And there you have it, another nice simplification. Hopefully that gives you a little bit of a look at simplifying and proving using identities. That's simplifying, I should say, using identities. Now we'll get into the proving using identities. This is even more fun. Proving. So what happens here is I give you something, I tell you flat out, this is a true statement. So I'm going to tell you flat out the sine of theta divided by the cosecant of theta plus the cosine of theta divided by the secant of theta is the same thing as sine of theta times cosecant of theta. I am telling you, this is a true statement. Okay? But it doesn't look like one, right? It does not look like they're equivalent. So what I need to do is prove this identity. And the way we prove identities is we work with one side only. You are only allowed to work with one side. So I like to look at the most difficult side because the most difficult side has the most options for simplifying. The easy side doesn't have a whole lot of options for simplifying. I can change this to 1 over sine and I get 1. Okay, well that doesn't really help me much because I want it to look like this. So I'm going to look at the difficult side. So I look at the difficult side and I got lots of options. I could get common denominators and combine them. I can rewrite cosecant and secant as their 1/overs, and that's what I'm going to do. Cosecant is 1 divided by sine, so I have sine of theta, and I'm going to write cosine of theta here, and now in different color pen so we can see the changes. Cosecant is 1 over sine, and secant is 1 over cosine. Well, dividing by a fraction is the same as multiplying by the reciprocal, so this becomes sine squared plus cosine squared. Okay, now I'm making some progress. I want it to look like sine times cosecant. So sine squared plus cosine squared, that's 1. Well, that's not helpful because I want a sine. Oh, okay. So isn't this also 1? Yes, it is. And isn't that the same as sine times 1 over sine? Certainly. And 1 over sine we know to be cosecant. Too many S's. Cosecant. Where's my undo? Oh boy, that undid a lot. Cosecant theta. Check. Now it looks the same. I'm going to quick go forward and back because we lost some things there. There we go. Okay. I have now made the left side look like the right side. Okay. These take practice, but you'll find them gratifying and satisfying at the end when you complete proving an identity. Good luck. See you on the other side. Have a good one.